welcome to another Pat Dooley show. I appreciate everybody for clicking on. We got a couple of great guests today for our panel, Drew Copeland and Ken Block from Sister Hazel. I know you're going to want to watch that. Certainly Saturday was a must-win for Florida for bowl reasons, for just to get off the snide reasons, and the Gators got it done, 26-21. It was kind of weird because you literally could drive to the game without ever stopping. It seemed like there was nobody going to the game. Growl was an all-time low, and then as we were getting ready for kickoff, I mean, there were huge blotches of empty seats, and it was almost embarrassing. We were kind of not surprised by it, but at the same time, the next thing you know, it filled in. And I thought it ended up being a pretty good crowd, considering all the circumstances. And of course, the Gators get off to a great start, and you're thinking this is going to be a great day, and then here comes Vandy back. Florida continues to struggle with, in the second half offensively. It's a chart I'm going to work on actually over the next couple of days, and it'll be in our Gainesville Sun probably Thursday or Friday. But Florida in the second half in SEC games has not been very good. When Demps breaks the run, we were joking about this, Robbie Andrew and I, on our Swampcast. The best thing he could have done was to run, when he got to the 5-yard line, is run around for a while and kill some more time off, and then take a knee at the one, have Florida kneel on it 3 times, and take more time off the clock. Because when he scored, it's funny because I was listening to Mick Hubert on the radio when I was watching the Will Muschamp show, and it had Mick Hubert's voiceover, and he goes, "Game over." Well, a lot of people felt the same way. In fact, I thought the same thing. But then I looked at that clock and went, game not over. And of course, Jordan Rogers drives him right back down. Florida has to get the onside kick. As I said in my column, Jordan Reed made the best catch of his career by getting that onside kick. So it was a much needed win for Florida. There's no question about it. They had to have that one for bowl eligibility. They had to have that one to stop the bleeding. And we saw them get innovative again, going to the pistol instead of the shotgun. And we'll see what happens. The Gators, of course, and I'll tell you one thing, Vanderbilt's not bad at all. That's a decent football team that came in here. We saw them almost beat Arkansas. We saw them give Georgia everything they could handle. With Rodgers in there, they're pretty good, and they're going to be pretty good next year. In fact, Florida's trip to Nashville got a lot dicier in the last 2 weeks. Just my thoughts on that. But of course, Florida going to play South Carolina now, going to play the old ball coach, and we'll see how they handle that. It's a tough situation for the Gators because there's really nothing on the line. All that's on the line is going to play a football game. In fact, I think the last time that was the case might have been 2004 in Ron Zook's last year, when there was nothing going on in terms of the race in the SEC. But you want to improve your bowl status. You want to win. You want to win the game. That's all that really matters. And I've said this all along. If Florida can sweep November, they swept September, got swept in October, sweep November, 8-4 is where I had them at the beginning of the season. So, especially with the injuries, we don't know the status, as I'm taping this, of Connor Shaw. My gut is he'll play, but, we'll see if he's able to go. But they've had all kinds of injuries. South Carolina banged up much like Florida. The game's in Columbia, but it's an early game. Maybe the crowd's not as lubed and fired up, so we'll see how they handle it. And, of course, they need to win, and then I hope Auburn beats Georgia, which is very possible. I don't think Georgia's a great team. I don't think Auburn's a great team. The game's in Athens, so it makes it tougher for Auburn, but I think Auburn could definitely beat Georgia, and I think if South Carolina beats Florida, that will be a fun game to watch. If they don't, I don't know how hard Georgia plays. If Florida wins that game, Georgia may come out and go, we got it won already. What's the point? But we'll see what happens there. Of course, Alabama LSU on Saturday night, a lot of fun. I had a great setup. I had 3 TVs on my back porch, had the grill going, I was cooking some chicken, had a nice fire going. Well, the grill went out, we ate our chicken, we're watching the game, it's like the end of the first quarter, I'm out of firewood. And I'm like, just go inside. That would have been great to stay out there for the whole night, but we went inside, still could watch both games, and certainly a dynamic game. I thought it was a great game. I like more offense. I'm an offensive guy. I'm the last guy that will say it's 9-6 and overtime's a great game in terms of aesthetically, but you could not take your eyes away. You had to have bathroom breaks. You weren't getting up and going to the bathroom during a play. And so I think that's what makes a great game. And not necessarily, I've heard people say Oklahoma State, Kansas State was a better game. Why? Because they scored hundreds of points? That's the Big 12. That's the way they play over there. Take a look at Texas Tech if you don't believe that. But we'll see if Alabama and LSU end up rematching. I kind of doubt it. And of course, this week we also found out on Sunday they held the announcement so it wouldn't interfere with that game that Missouri's coming to the SEC. The SEC's gotten a little weird for me. And that when you think about Missouri, and there's 3 Tigers now in the SEC, there's 2 Columbias, It's just getting odd. But we'll see how all that works out with Missouri. The big thing is the scheduling. I'm fascinated to see who Florida plays next year because it's up in the air. You know they're going to play Missouri and the other East teams that they always play, but who do they play in the West? Who, do they keep their permanent partner in LSU? All this is supposed to be, at least, I don't know if it's going to be decided, but we're going to hear a lot more about it next week. So it's going to be interesting. The SEC is changing drastically, as we know. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it's time for 3 things. Okay, 3 things over the weekend that I saw that kind of caught my eye. Number one was, I know it's an imperfect science. We have replay and all that, but man, I keep seeing a lot of missed calls by officials. And these are calls that necessarily are not replayable. I still believe that the hit that Biquette put on Connor Shaw in the South Carolina-Arkansas game was helmet to helmet. I talked to a friend of mine who's a referee, said it was close, but he didn't think it was. Okay, maybe I missed that one too. But a lot of holding not being called all around the country, all around the conference. And when I'm sitting there watching games, I sit there going, the quality of officiating this year, and I know a lot of you are saying, SEC officials always stink. Well, SEC officials make mistakes, but for the most part, they're better than a lot of others. I just think this year, Steve Shaw needs to get to work and get these guys straightened out because what I'm seeing are a lot of missed calls around the country. Number 2 on 3 things, who will be the new coach at Ole Miss? We know now that Houston Nutt won't be. Not a big surprise. They were bad. There's a lot of things going on there, and then you go lose to Kentucky, which I thought might be one of the worst teams I've ever seen in a BCS conference, and you lose that game 30-13. That was it for Houston Nutt, and of course the AD also stepping down. I tell you one thing, and I tweeted this the other day, Mike Hill would not be a bad choice. He's, of course, at Florida, and almost got the North Carolina athletic director job to go in there and be the AD, and I think more than anything what Ole Miss needs to do is go hire an African-American coach. One of the reasons it's so hard for them to get the players is because of the tradition and history, and there's still guys in that parking lot flying rebel flags. You get an African-American coach in there, it makes a huge difference. And he's going to help, he can attract kids in there. The facilities are nice. They got really nice facilities. Stadium's 60,000, not bad at all. The Grove's beautiful, and you got a lot of good things going on there. Oxford's a great city. Charlie Strong makes a lot of sense to me. Kevin Sumlin makes a lot of sense to me. The question is, for example, with Charlie Strong, is it a better job to go to Ole Miss? Well, it is for this reason. You don't know if the Big East is going to be a BCS conference in the next couple of years. So I think if he had that opportunity, he would jump, and we'll see if he does. And finally, number 3 on our list today is, the Houston Nutt syndrome. I feel bad for Houston Nutt, only in this. Every time I've met the guy, I like him. But he's a guy who does a great job going places and winning with somebody else's players, but he has a hard time getting the players in there. He's also a guy that, through history, and we've joked about this, if you think he's not going to be any good, he's usually pretty good. When you think he's going to be really good, he's not. He's kind of average. Well, the last couple of years, we thought they weren't going to be very good, and they weren't, so he couldn't coach above that. But don't be surprised. You're going to see Houston Nutt somewhere on ESPN doing Sun Belt games or something. He'll be great on TV. He'll probably do some radio as well. I don't know that anybody's going to hire him to be a head coach for a while. I think he's going to be in the kind of Mike Leach purgatory where you're out a year or two, and then you come back and coach somewhere. That's going to do it for the list. We'll be right back with our great panel right after this. All right, welcome back to the Pat Dooley Show. We've got the ultimate panel today. I'm so happy to have these guys here. Big fans of theirs, and they're good friends as well. Ken Block and Drew Copeland from Sister Hazel. How you guys doing?
Great, Pat. Thanks for having us.
You just hosted the Gator Growl. I thought you did a great job. Kelsey, who's in the back today, thought you did a great job.
Very nice.
What was it like for you?
Surreal.
It was really, and it was a weird gig, honestly, because having 60 or 70 yards between you and the audience was really strange. Like anytime, even saying something or introducing somebody, normally we play off of what people are saying or laughter or anything else, and there's nothing. So
or a delay.
Yeah,
or
right.
Like you say something, and then you get some kind of feedback or reaction.
Yeah.
We were up in the club seat, so it really felt like we were watching something on the moon.
Right. Yeah. No, I walked around after we introduced the Goo Goo Dolls. I walked around. I was going to sit with my wife and kids and watch their show and see the fireworks, and my wife was like, "That's it, we're out of here." Oh. But I stood there for a minute and watched, and I was like, "Wow, we were skinny."
Yeah.
which was nice. So it was a lot of fun, and
Check it off the bucket list. For
Yeah,
us. I mean, look,
True.
we're guys that sold Cokes in that stadium. You know,
Pepsi.
Pepsis. Sorry, Pepsi.
I sold actually hot dogs.
Did
I
you
was a
really?
hot dog guy. Yeah,
I
sold
did
them.
programs and Pepsis.
I sold hot dogs, 1 box. I'd save the last 2, eat them myself, go sit down.
See, it's always
My
fun.
little brother, they used to sell the plastic oranges.
Oh, yeah,
with orange
yeah,
juice and
yeah.
the straw in it.
Oh, yeah.
And they sold them for $2.50, and he went to Florida Field Jail for selling them for $3 and keeping the 50 cents.
Really?
Well, the other thing,
Yeah, attaboy.
you would walk around the stadium and it'd always be sticky because people poured out half the orange juice.
Oh, that's
to
right.
whack you.
Yeah.
Mixers, get your mixers here.
All right, we're going to go through our 5 questions here with these guys and look forward to getting their answers because the last one I really like. Number 1, is it still weird to you guys to see Steve Spurrier coaching against the Gators?
Yes, a little bit for me.
Yes, but no, it's weird.
We root for Spurrier and Mangus and Sprotus and those guys.
Yeah. I imagine I don't know. He may not care, but I imagine for him, it's still got to be kind of strange coming, either coming to Gainesville or having the Gators visit.
Yeah.
Being such because he's a Gator.
I think the
regardless.
the first game,
Really
he
weird.
really had to just kind of like not even look at who was on the other side.
I agree.
The second one coming back to the Swamp. But after that, I think, and the story itself has almost gotten tired. I mean, this is his 7th time playing the Gators. But this is what I'm writing for Saturday.
Yeah, but look,
They still erected a statue to him last year.
Exactly.
It's earlier this
Still-
year.
it's
Yeah.
Still there. And look, remember we blocked the
Jarvis
the
Moss,
kick?
yeah.
And then they came and won here. I mean, it's a big
Well, and
deal
not only
to
that, I
us.
think that I think the other story there also is that he's doing it. People wrote him off
Right.
after the Washington debacle.
And even the early years of South Carolina.
Even the early years of South Carolina, people said, it's kind of the fun and guns gone and this and that. But the guy's a good coach, and so he took what he had. He's done his recruiting, which people gave him crap about his recruiting too.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done his recruiting. He's brought in some players, and he's built that program, up to a contender in the East. Of course, the East isn't
No.
all that
And
this
they're
year,
bang-
but
and
last
they're
year they
banged
were.
up quite a bit right now.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
Lattimore's as good as you get.
I remember,
Yeah.
I guess it was 09 at Media Days, and that was the year that Spurrier didn't vote for Tebow on the All-SEC
Yeah.
team. It became a huge story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there, and he's not won anything, and I felt sorry for the guy.
I did too.
I mean, then, of course, he turns around and
Yeah.
thumps
Yeah.
Florida. And
He's.
Look, any time a Steve Spurrier coach football team takes the field, they have a shot at winning a game.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's the truth.
They have a shot at winning that game. It doesn't matter if they're playing against the number 1 team or the number 50 team. They're going to show you something out there. They have the potential.
I also find it comical how much Darius Rucker hated Steve Spurrier.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, he was a Redskins fan.
But he was a Redskins fan, so when he went there, but when they were losing, he still was like, Spurrier. But now he's Gamecocks winning that whole thing. and
He's played in their tournament.
yeah, he plays at the Hootie tournament. He's all,
Does he have one of those "We've Got Steve" shirts? Or
probably.
No, but you know what's funny is, Spurrier's one of those guys, like we came over and said hey to him, and this was a couple years back, and he looked at the shirt Drew was wearing. He's like, "Oh, that shirt! I remember that shirt. That was about 1990."
Yeah, man, he's all making fun of my golf shirt.
Yeah.
I'm like,
He,
hey,
that was-
man,
he
back
like,
off.
knew what logo was from what
He really
year.
did. That was really weird.
well, that's
Oh,
kinda
I remember that
interesting.
shirt.
Yeah.
That's from, yeah. Wow.
Well, he doesn't forget anything.
No,
He doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't.
All right, go on to our second topic. I don't know, you guys never get to watch college football because you're always working, but did you get to watch the game Saturday night, the Alabama-LSU game?
Yes.
Would you like to see a rematch in the national title game?
I would, because I love the dominance of the SEC. And I look.
Yeah, that means we're going to win no matter what.
Yeah,
which would
you're
be
going to win the
nice.
sixth
Yeah,
straight.
we
Yeah.
win no matter what. I honestly, I was leaning toward Bama going into that game. I'd like to see it. Yeah, I think that. I mean, that was an overtime win. I mean, that's.
Look, there's right now. Would I say yes? Maybe, but there's so much football left to be played that if somebody, one of these other undefeated teams kind of shows their dominance a little bit more, then I may want to see that matchup. But that was
Like if Stanford beats Oregon.
unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, if Stanford beats Oregon, like handily.
Yeah.
Is that
Or
the way you
Okies.
say that? Is
Yeah.
it handily or is
Yes.
it handedly?
Handle with me
Handle
with
it.
care. I think.
Okay. Then that
Fragile.
would be interesting. You know what I mean? But man, I got to tell you, anybody that says that wasn't a good game is they don't
I
really
agree.
know football.
If they're
that
the
game
two-
was
they're still
unbelievable.
in
Couldn't
my
take your eye
opinion-
away from it.
In
They
my
were-
opinion, they're still the 2 best teams in college football.
Dude, that's
what I'd
I'm
like
not
to
sure
see again.
Alabama's not better.
Dude,
I agree.
they're 4-4 in the NFL. I'm just saying. There are some teams
Depends
right
on
now.
who they play.
Yeah, I'm just
The
saying.
Dolphins prior to last week.
What they do, both of those teams, but I agree. I thought I was pulling for LSU because I thought they were an underdog, which means I thought Bama was going to win. But man, their front lines on both sides for those teams play like the NFL.
Discipline.
They run downhill.
You kind of can understand why Florida couldn't run the ball in either one.
Oh yeah, Trent Richardson's he's a stud.
beast, yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
he's
I'll
a
tell you
beast.
something. You just talked about the lines. You know, watching Florida even this week, and we did have, Demps had a big week rushing, but if they would hold those blocks a millisecond longer, I think we would see a whole different offense.
And that's
Yeah.
part
That's
of
the
the problem,
difference.
yeah. Yeah, but
that
man-
to me is the difference between some of those great lines.
But look, all this talk about us not having talent and there not enough players and this and that, man, I just think that's garbage. Urban Meyer came in and said, I want to have the fastest team in college football, and he did that. And the players he has in place are built for speed. Even the offensive line are slightly smaller build, but they're agile dudes that can make the moves. And what Charlie Weiss wants to do and Will wants to do does not necessarily fall into that category. We've got plenty of talent. Our wide receivers are unfortunately, they're not going to be able to get used that much because of what's happening with the offensive line and being able to give time.
Yeah, you can't throw
But
it
we've
if you don't
got
have time.
talent, man. We really do have talent.
That's your Urban Meyer defense for the day? Is it?
But it's not really defending Urban. It's defending our offense as of right now. Yeah, I'm defending them all, my Gators, because
We love them all.
yeah.
Well, this is kind of like what I wrote Saturday, was that Urban wasn't recruiting for Will.
No.
Urban was
Right.
recruiting for Urban.
Whole different
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a different thing.
And you watch, he'll get his personnel.
Right.
They will. I mean, with Charlie Weiss and Will and everybody,
Keep
they've
saying
got,
will, like he will.
he will.
Will.
Will
squared.
this team to
Will have a will to win. All right, number 3 on our list, and I always ask people this because Gator fans, I find are divided in this. Because there's a lot of Gator fans, especially if they live in South Florida,
Yeah.
they root for the Noles in that game. There's a lot of Gator fans that are maybe further north that root for the Hurricanes. I have friends who would root for Iraq against FSU. But I'm just curious, this is a big game Saturday. I'm sorry, it's not a big game. It's a game Saturday. Who are you rooting for?
I always root for the team that we're going to play on our schedule. So, because it's always better for us to have those teams win as many games as possible. It's almost impossible for me to root for FSU, but if I had to, well, not to mention our drummer, Mark, who's a big Miami fan, he roots against us every game. And whether it's, we'll be on the bus and we'll be playing anybody. It could be anybody, and if something good happens for their team, he'll be like, yes.
He's a huge Furman fan.
And then it'll be
now.
really cool. Yeah. Believe me, he's loving South Carolina right now.
Well, I'm sort of the same way. If we're playing them and it's going to matter for us, I'm rooting for
But it
that
really
team.
doesn't matter this year.
It doesn't matter this year
No.
at all. I in the past have tended to go into the game leaning towards FSU, and then kind of
When you hear the
halfway
chop.
then as soon as someone falls behind,
Yeah.
I end up looking for a good game in that game. You
Yeah.
know, watch them beat up on each other a little bit.
Well, it certainly will be an interesting game, no matter.
Yeah,
I mean,
no doubt.
Both these teams are going to minor bowls, as is Florida.
And look, it is one of those rivalry games in the sense that these guys played each other in high school. These guys went all these camps together. Recruiting does matter in this game, so it's always interesting.
All right, number 4 on our list on our panel is Alabama ripe for a letdown, and we see these. We call them, letdown games or not pancake. What is the word? What do you call them? Not sandwich games. It's a.
I don't know, but you're making me hungry.
Sandwich games.
Pancake,
I totally got
sandwich.
blank on what you call them. Trap game.
Trap game.
There
Trap
you go.
game.
That has nothing to do with food. Chili game.
I like
Well,
the
if
chili
you
game
trap
better.
food in your
Right, and trap it.
All right, look. I'll
Put it down in your trap.
Alabama can have a letdown, and they're still going to win the game. I mean, they would have to get in their own way to lose that game, which means they're going to have to turn the ball over 8 times and not create 1 turnover to
Which
lose
ain't
that
gonna
game. No.
Now, look, Dan Mullen's team has kept it close an awful lot
Right,
this year,
right.
and so that's kind of what you're up at. It would be a huge win for Dan Mullen and those guys, but Alabama's, I still think they're the best team in the country.
Yeah, and Nick Saban's, it's not like he's sitting around right now going, how did we lose the game to LSU? Like, he's getting
No,
ready
he's
to play this
going.
Well,
he's going, guys. you have one chance to get back and play LSU
Yeah,
again.
it's not
That's-
over.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah,
not
it's
over.
not over yet.
You have a chance to play that same team again, but you got some business to take care
And
of.
there's also this: if Alabama, or I'm sorry, if Arkansas could knock off LSU at the end of the year, well, Alabama would probably be the highest team in the BCS.
Right. That's
They would go to Atlanta.
That's right.
Right.
And they may end up playing for the national title.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
The way that whole thing works. I read that somewhere.
In my column. Yeah, thank you. All right, finally, our last question here for our great panel, and I appreciate these guys coming in. If you could be on stage with one artist or one group, who would it be?
I'm gonna have to go with Pat Dooley and his two
You've done
newly
that.
learned songs.
We have shared the stage with.
Yeah, but not with the new songs.
Yeah,
you've
not with
learned.
new songs.
You've learned two new
But
songs.
do
on the
you
guitar.
know those songs?
Pink
No,
Floyd, yeah,
I'd have to
Pink
take
Floyd
27
and
seconds
Neil
of
Young,
one
yeah.
of those.
I'm still a huge Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers fan. And it seems odd that all these years in our relationship with Stan and all those guys.
But we would want Stan back behind the kit.
Yeah, we definitely want Stan playing drums on that.
Yeah.
We that body of work. I mean, I think no matter where I was raised and lived my whole life, the Tom Petty and Heartbreakers body of work collectively. If I had to play anybody else's body of work night in, night out, that would be that would be it. Now it would also be kind of cool to sit with like James Taylor. Sing some
Yeah,
harmony.
you're talking about solo. Yeah, but I'd like to. It would be fun to be on stage with the Eagles.
That's
I'd
true.
like that.
Never heard of
Except they don't ever talk to each other, and they kind of, all have their
Still, that's another body of
their
work.
jets are parked out back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would, my dream if I could win the lottery, if
Yeah.
they were all still, and I forget the Beatles. The Beatles are what they
Right,
are.
yeah.
But I'd love to be on stage with the Traveling Wilburys if they were all
yeah,
still with
yeah, all
us.
those guys.
Because then you would get Harrison, you would get Petty, you
Yeah.
would get Dylan,
Orbison.
Lynn
Yeah.
from the ELO, Orbison.
Yeah.
I mean,
Jeff Lynne, yeah.
that'd be hard to beat right there.
Yeah, that's a
I've
fun
heard
night.
I've heard that Dylan book, and I don't know how old it is, but I was writing with somebody up in Nashville a couple weeks ago, and they said that book changed his whole perspective on Dylan and how he was supposedly the voice of a generation, and he had all these important things to say, and people would always come to him and go, what did the cover of that record mean? And he was like, I don't know, it's a guy in a jacket smoking a cigarette. It was not, he was like, look, I'm just
But you
writing
have to,
songs.
if you're reading to yourself, you have to read it with his. Once upon a time, there was,
Yeah. No, it was anyway. That's totally off subject.
All right, so by the way, what are you guys working on right now?
Writing. Drew's up in Nashville.
That's what I'm doing.
Yes.
Yeah. I learned a couple of songs on the guitar. No, man, we've actually stayed really busy, and the touring has, fans still come out to shows, and at this point in the year, things start to slow down. A lot of the music business almost shuts down completely around Thanksgiving until after the New Year. So we've got some shows set up that we're going to do. I'm not sure where our New Year's Eve show is yet.
I'm not sure either, but I know
Usually you do a House of Blues, don't you?
we do 2 nights at Chicago House of Blues.
Yeah, that's right.
December 16th and 17th. We have a Lyrics for Life event coming up in St. Pete on the 18th of November, which of course raises money for childhood cancer and programs that research and programs that support those families and those kids. It's at Don Cesar, St. Pete Beach, lyricsforlife.org.
We got the Rock Boat.
We got the Rock Boat coming up March 1st.
I gotta do that.
Oh man, it's leaving from
Yeah,
New
you need to
Orleans.
It's always during
Oh,
basketball season.
It's March
and it's
1st.
it's
March
March
1st this year. Yeah,
1st.
leaving from New Orleans.
We call it March Madness,
Nah, I've heard of
You
it.
do, with good reason. And we have a show this Saturday in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We're in West
Oh,
Palm
yeah.
the next Sunday, so
We're in Nashville Friday night, and then Fort Lauderdale Saturday night.
nice routing.
And
What
then
about
like
Gainesville? When we
Kansas on
get you back
Sunday,
here?
and then
We're talking about trying to work on a little festival idea for the spring. But
I'm not talking to
Drew's
you.
mad at me because we never can.
I'm
quite-
begging to play. I told him that I would set up acoustically in the middle of University Avenue if we would just do a show here.
Really?
Yeah, but nothing.
Yeah,
We will.
I'm
You know what it is?
available.
No, I'll tell you what it is. In his defense, and we both have wanted to do this. We want to set up a festival. We want to block off some streets and have some vendors and come in and do a big festival and bring in some of our friends, some of the bands that
Kids
are
can
friends,
come,
and
families
bring
can
the
come,
friends
students
and
can
family.
come, yeah.
But
I know
the
that one in
hardest
the back
part
is there.
the hardest part is getting all of that organized and making it happen. So if anybody sees this that has ideas about that, call Ken. His number is
Call Pat Dooley. He'll let us know. Yeah, no, we
Yeah.
are. If we talk to some sponsors and see if we can't get a big Hazel Fest going here in Gainesville.
Oh man, I love it. I'll be there. I'll be in line.
Excellent.
That's going to do it for our great panel. We appreciate these guys coming in. We'll be right back with the list.
Ow, it's too small.
All right, welcome back to the Pat Dooley Show. Again, want to thank Ken Block and Drew Copeland for coming in. Good stuff. I could have talked to them all day. In fact, I told them when they were leaving I could have them as guests all every week because they're that interesting. But we look forward to getting more guests in here. And again, as we wrap up another season of the Pat Dooley Show, hope you guys have enjoyed it. My list for today, and I thought about this during Gator Growl. They were introducing the seniors, and there weren't many of them. There certainly weren't many of them who play a lot. But I was thinking about the legacies of those seniors. And, let's go through these 5 guys and what their legacies are, because they're really interesting in a lot of ways. Starting out with Jeff Demps. I think tremendous legacy, not only in football, but of course in track as well. Some of the big runs he's had, when you remember back to the FSU game and in the rain, the one against at Arkansas, certainly the one the other day where he scores and pretty much puts the game away, at least we thought. And I think Jeff Demp's legacy is going to be pretty darn good. I mean, track national championship. He'll be one of those guys that's really beloved when he comes back to Gainesville. Second, John Brantley. And when you talk about a mix, it's not even a mixed legacy, I don't believe, because in John's case, he got put in a bad situation. We all know that. We've talked about it ad nauseum. And of course, the injury this year just totally disrupted it. I think people are always going to look at John as, man, what a shame. He did everything he could, and we're talking about guys who leave and don't stick around because they're not playing. And he stuck around, and he was a Gator all the way through. And I think he'll be part of this program for a long time. It'll be interesting to see what happens to him down the road. Number 3 is talk about Chris Rainey. Where does that legacy? Where is it? I mean, we love what he's done. I mean, he's put his heart and soul into this team for all 4 years. But we have the incident from last year with the text, missed games there. So it's a little bit of a harmed legacy, I guess. But in the end, I think Gator fans remember Chris Rainey for being bubbly, for being a big part of a national championship team, and certainly for trying to carry this team on his back at times this year. Number 4, Jay Howard, who I don't know what his legacy will be. His legacy is a guy who's done some good things, but big plays. The interception touchdown against Kentucky, but that was Kentucky. He's made some nice plays. I think he's played hard. He's had a lot of injury problems, but it's not like when you think back, some of the great defensive linemen in Gator history, you're going to think of Jay Howard. I think he's played hard, and he's stayed out of trouble, and maybe that's good enough for a legacy for him. And I think in a lot of cases, that is a good enough legacy. And finally, Deontay Thompson, which is the most complicated one of them all. Deontay's never gotten really into any issues. He's done everything he's been asked. He didn't leave when a lot of people thought he would, but he's been unproductive, really, for 5 years. Everybody remembers the big catch against Arkansas. Sorry about that. But for the most part, that was Ole Miss. I get so confused with that whole Houston Nutt thing. Now that he's out of the league, I'm not going to worry about that anymore. But Deontay Thompson, when you look at him, how he came out, I think a lot of people are going to look at him and go, yeah, he was kind of a bust. And it's a shame that kids get labeled like that. And of course, I'm the one labeling them. But Deontay Thompson, I think, I like Deontay, and I hope he does well. That's one good thing about when you come to Florida. Even if you don't have a great sterling career, you're going to have a lot of opportunities down the road. So anyway, that's my list. That was kind of complicated, wasn't it? But we appreciate everybody for clicking on. Again, thanks to Drew and Ken for coming in. Thanks for Kelsey for putting up with me today. She's a little under the weather, and she had to come in here. We appreciate that. We will be back next week. And, of course, we'll be looking at Florida's game with Furman, not too closely. More than anything, we'll be talking about their game with South Carolina and some of the other big games that take place coming up this weekend. Until next time, this is Pat Dooley, sports columnist of the Gainesville Sun, saying so long from the Sunshine State.